So Jack, tell me what the impact was of Hurricane Harvey on your operations in the Gulf Coast.
Well, we were very fortunate. First, the destruction from Harvey was just amazing of what it did to Houston. So our first goal was to make sure our employees were safe, their families were safe, our assets were secure, and then we could not lose what we call normal operations. So we implemented our business continuity plans, our disaster recovery plan, and we were very, very fortunate because having Harvey, one hurricane hit, all three of our major sites and facilities and communities, was devastating.
So for Sabine Pass, no actual damage to the equipment?
No, none. And Sabine fared fairly well. We went through the whole storm without any upset to operations. We produced a significant amount of LNG through the storm. We got a lot of water. Port Arthur, which is right by our facility, I think in one day got 27 inches of rain, just unheard of levels. And now we're dealing with, where all that water is flowing. It happens to be flowing down our channel. So we're waiting for the ports to reopen to normal operations so we can get the LNG out of our tanks into our customers' ships and off our shores.
What's the cargo situation like? When do you expect them to sort of be able to get in and return to the normal operations?
Well, in our discussions with the port and with the Coast Guard, we're hopeful in a couple of days. We received our first tanker yesterday. The tanker's been filled up and is ready to leave, but the currents are still high and there's debris coming down the channel.
What kind of loadings do you expect once the ports open?
We have 6 tankers in waiting. So we would expect 2 tankers at a time, and we would load them. It takes us anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a tanker, and we'd get them on their way.
Did you have to declare force majeure in any way whatsoever? Did you able to fulfill contracts from another area?
We have not had to declare force majeure ourselves because we've been producing LNG, and our obligation to our customers is to have the LNG ready at our dock. It is. My expectation is there may be 1 or 2 cargoes that get disrupted, but we don't see anything material.
You're also under construction there for another train as well as Corpus Christi. Did any of the construction get delayed, and for how long because of the storm?
No, it looks like, and I'm so appreciative of Bechtel and the Bechtel management and employees, because we were able to get prepared for the storm early. They strapped things down, they secured our equipment, they moved all of their equipment off sites to higher grounds, that we've had no signs of any damage. We're now in the process of getting the construction workers back on site. Bechtel has spoken to over 80% of all the construction workers. We had 1,200 workers, give or take, yesterday at Corpus Christi, and we're going to hit the ground running, and we don't expect any major delays.
Obviously, the pull from Asia is still pretty strong in terms of demand. Is U.S. LNG still competitive versus, say, Russian LNG and Australian LNG that's right there in Asia?
Absolutely. So in Asia, LNG demand growth has been around 14% year over year. In China specifically, it's over 40%. The numbers are staggering. And the Chinese electrification plan that they just released will take them from about 35 million tons of LNG to well over 100 million tons in 15 years. So we see a lot of opportunities in China. We opened our first office in Beijing here really recently, and we've delivered a dozen cargoes to various different counterparties in China.
Of course, the question is always the ARB spread, right? So does the ARB work? Can you make enough money shipping it to Asia if you have lower prices for Russian and Australia LNG? Where's the spread now?
The spread's a little over $2.
You happy with that?
So it's a good living. You know, I feel like a farmer sometimes. Margins are tight, volumes are high, but we'll make it, we'll take it.
And I asked you before we got on air, what's the level that you need to be able to put more money to work in the U.S.? What's that spread?
You know, above 2 and below 3 would be a a good spread for us to be able to facilitate building the next 2 trains, which is another 10 million tons that we're fully permitted for and shovel ready.
And that's Corpus Christi is the train 3 that you're kind of waiting for interest in order to then announce FID, so the final investment decision. Where are you in that process?
It's both Corpus Christi 3 and Sabine Pass 6. Those are the 2 trains that we're ready and willing and able to build as soon as we get fully commercialized. So,
how close are you to getting those decisions?
Lots of discussions. I'm hopeful that some of them will stick, and we'll be able to get the contracts, get it commercialized, and keep everybody working.
What do you feel like is holding everybody back?
I've been in the industry now, Alex, for about a year, right? And last year when I started, there was this big glut. The industry was expecting a big glut of LNG, and tankers are going to be on the water and not be able to find homes. That's never materialized. In fact, if you look back at some of the LNG demand growth rates, they were about 5% a year from the consultants. We've now averaged over 12% year over year in worldwide LNG. So I think that's,
it's growing.
It's growing.
So the glut not materializing as much. So
Yep.
that brings me to the question of Sabine Pass Train 4, that cargo that left. Can you give me some insight as to where your most recent cargoes are going? I know you mentioned the demand in Asian demand, but specifically, can you tell me?
We don't really disclose because a lot of the time those are cargoes that are from our customers. But if you look at our map, out of the 170 cargoes, I'd say over 40% have gone to Central and South America. So, and that's where you would expect, right? We're going to be extremely competitive in those markets, and they have a phenomenal need there. But looking forward, nothing compares to the growth that we see in Asia right now.
When talking about construction, you mentioned the Train 6 at Sabine and Train 3 at Corpus Christi. Do you expect costs to stay stable, or do you think costs are going to increase, particularly when you wrap in Hurricane Harvey and if there's any kind of labor issue or a problem getting the material to your sites? What's your read on that?
Yeah, I think initially, the costs are going to go up a little bit as everybody is wrangling to get construction workers back to their site and having to deal with temporary housing, et cetera, that got damaged. Most of the construction workers are more migratory in nature, right? They move from site to site. But I think overall it'll stabilize, and I think we'll come out okay.
Tying these two things together, so the Asian demand and the pull there being a huge growth driver, at the same time, the tons of hurricanes that are coming into the Gulf Coast, do you need to move your export terminals to California? Do you need to kind of get closer to that source?
We're in a very, very good position on the Gulf Coast. We have great access and redundant access to a very liquid natural gas supply. We're in states that really like our business and want us. So,
California maybe not so much.
There's other benefits to being in the Gulf Coast.